Activation of the immune response typically begins when a pathogen enters the body.
Upon entrance into the body, macrophages that encounter this pathogen ingest, process, and subsequently display the antigen fragments on their cell surfaces. Macrophages with antigen fragments on their surfaces are called antigen-presenting cells.
An antigen-presenting cell will then interact with the T helper cell that can recognize the antigen. During this interaction, the antigen-presenting cell will activate the T helper cell, stimulating a proliferation of activated T helper cell clones.
The immune response at this point can follow two paths, one using cytotoxic T cells, called the cell-mediated response, and one using B cells, called the humoral response.
Cell-mediated response. This clonal population of activated T cells helps to simulate the activation of cytotoxic T cells. Of the millions of different cytotoxic T cells the body produces, each is able to recognize a particular antigen.
A cytotoxic T cell that recognizes an antigen displayed on an infected cell surface will then bind to the infected cell. Following the binding, the cytotoxic T cell releases chemicals that go on to kill the infected cell, resulting in the death of the pathogen.
Humoral response. Like cytotoxic T cells, B cells come in millions of varieties that each can bind to a particular antigen.
When a B cell is activated by a helper T cell, it differentiates, producing a clonal population of effector cells called plasma cells. These plasma cells are factories for producing antibodies that can bind to certain antigens involved in infections.
Antibodies bind to the surface of antigens, marking them for destruction by macrophages.
Some B cells do not go on to become antibody factories, but rather become memory cells. Cytotoxic T cells, as well as helper T cells, although not pictured here, can also go on to produce memory cells.
These memory cells are key in stimulating the production of effector cells in case of a future infection by the same pathogen, essentially preparing the cell for a stronger, swifter response.
In conclusion, both the cell-mediated response and the humoral response are forms of the body's secondary immune response, otherwise known as adaptive immunity.
Thanks for watching!